The Forgotten World. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled over 47 star systems for 3,000 years, but now their ancient civilization faced its greatest crisis. Their home worlds were dying, consumed by centuries of industrial expansion and resource exploitation. Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of the survey vessel Eternal Reach, studying the holographic display of a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system at the galaxy's edge. "Analysis complete," Commander reported his science officer, adjusting the neural interface that connected directly to the ship's vast database. "The third planet shows abundant water, breathable atmosphere, and significant mineral deposits. Preliminary scans indicate primitive life forms with no evidence of advanced technology or spacefaring capabilities." Vextar's elongated fingers traced patterns in the air, manipulating the three-dimensional image of Earth. His species had evolved from aquatic creatures, and their tall, graceful forms reflected their oceanic origins. Their silver-blue skin shimmered under the bridge's artificial lighting, and their large, dark eyes could perceive electromagnetic spectrums invisible to most carbon-based life forms. "Estimated extraction timeline?" Vextar inquired, his voice carrying the melodic tones characteristic of his people. 18 planetary rotations for full resource mapping, followed by standard extraction protocols. The native species appears to be scattered across the surface in small groups. They utilize basic tools and have developed rudimentary agriculture, but show no signs of unified planetary governance or advanced weaponry. Dr. Kethera, the expedition's xenobiologist, approached the command platform with fluid movements. Her role was to catalog and study any intelligent life forms they encountered, ensuring compliance with the Empire's ethical guidelines regarding primitive species. "Commander, I request permission to conduct detailed behavioral studies of the dominant life form. Our long-range observations suggest they possess unusual social structures that merit investigation." Vextar considered this request. The Zephyrian Empire prided itself on being civilized conquerors. They had learned through centuries of expansion that understanding local populations made resource extraction more efficient and reduced unnecessary conflicts. "Granted, Doctor. Deploy surveillance drones and establish monitoring posts. I want comprehensive data on their capabilities, social hierarchies, and potential resistance patterns." Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers below on Earth's surface, Sarah Chen was working in her small workshop behind her family's farm in rural Montana. The 34-year-old engineer had left her job in Silicon Valley 5 years earlier, choosing to return home when her father became ill. Now she spent her days maintaining irrigation systems, repairing farm equipment, and pursuing her passion for renewable energy projects. Sarah had always been fascinated by how things worked. As a child, she had dismantled every electronic device she could find, much to her parents' frustration. Her workshop was filled with half-completed inventions: solar panel arrays made from salvaged materials, wind turbines constructed from repurposed car parts, and water purification systems designed for rural communities. On this particular morning, Sarah noticed something unusual in the sky. A faint shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt, moved across the cloudless blue expanse. She shielded her eyes with her hand and squinted upward, but the phenomenon disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. "Probably just atmospheric distortion," she muttered to herself, returning to the solar panel she was rewiring. But something about the sighting bothered her, though she couldn't quite identify what. 50 miles away, Miguel Santos was addressing a gathering of community leaders in the small town of Cedar Falls. The former Army surgeon had served 3 tours overseas before returning to his hometown to raise his family. Now he worked as the local emergency coordinator, responsible for disaster preparedness and community safety. "The Weather Service is predicting a harsh winter," Miguel explained to the assembled group of farmers, business owners, and civic officials. "We need to ensure our supply chains are robust and our communication networks are reliable. I've been working with Sarah Chen on some backup power solutions that could help during extended outages." Miguel had learned the importance of preparation and community cooperation during his military service. He understood that when crisis struck, survival often depended not on individual heroism, but on how well people worked together. His calm demeanor and practical approach had earned him the respect of his neighbors, who often turned to him for guidance during difficult times. As the meeting concluded, several attendees mentioned seeing strange lights or unusual atmospheric phenomena over the past few days. Miguel made mental notes of these reports, filing them away for future consideration. His military training had taught him to pay attention to patterns and anomalies, even seemingly insignificant ones. High above Earth's atmosphere, Dr. Cathera was reviewing the initial surveillance data with growing fascination. The human species exhibited behavioral patterns unlike anything in the Zephyrian database. Their social structures were remarkably complex, with intricate networks of cooperation that extended far beyond immediate family groups. "Commander," she reported during the daily briefing, "these creatures demonstrate exceptional adaptability. They have colonized diverse environmental niches across their planet, from frozen polar regions to scorching deserts. Their technology may be primitive by our standards, but they show remarkable ingenuity in solving problems with limited resources." Vextar examined the holographic displays showing human settlements, transportation networks, and communication systems. Their infrastructure appears fragmented and inefficient. "Surely a species this disorganized poses no significant threat to our operations." "That may be precisely what makes them dangerous," Dr. Cathera replied. "Decentralized systems are often more resilient than centralized ones. If we disable their primary communication networks, they have numerous backup methods. If we target their leadership, local groups can function independently. They seem to thrive on improvisation and adaptation." The Zephyrian commander dismissed these concerns with a gesture. His species had conquered dozens of worlds, and the pattern was always the same. Initial resistance gave way to submission once primitive species recognized the futility of opposing advanced technology. "Continue your observations, Doctor, but prepare for standard colonization protocols. We begin resource extraction in 7 planetary rotations." As the alien surveillance drones spread across Earth's surface, they began recording countless examples of human ingenuity and cooperation. In Bangladesh, farmers were using smartphone apps to share weather data and coordinate crop planting. In Kenya, solar panel technicians were training rural communities to maintain their own energy systems. In Brazil, indigenous communities were using satellite internet to preserve their cultural knowledge while adopting beneficial outside technologies. Sarah Chen had become increasingly convinced that something unusual was happening in her area. Electronic devices were experiencing intermittent interference, and several neighbors had reported strange dreams or feelings of being watched. Her engineering background made her skeptical of supernatural explanations, but she couldn't ignore the accumulating evidence that some kind of external force was affecting the local environment. She decided to build a simple electromagnetic field detector using components from her workshop. If there were unusual energy signatures in the area, her device should be able to detect them. Sarah worked through the night, soldering circuits and calibrating sensors with the focused intensity that had made her successful in the tech industry. Miguel Santos was also noticing patterns in the reports reaching his office. Livestock behavior had changed across multiple farms, with animals showing signs of anxiety and altered sleep cycles. Ham radio operators were experiencing unusual static and interference. Most significantly, several pilots had reported navigational instrument anomalies while flying over the region. He began creating a detailed log of these incidents, mapping their locations and timing. Miguel's military experience had taught him to trust his instincts, and every instinct was telling him that Cedar Falls and the surrounding area were under some form of surveillance. The breakthrough came when Sarah's electromagnetic detector began registering massive energy signatures moving through the upper atmosphere. The readings were unlike anything she had ever seen, suggesting technology far beyond current human capabilities. She immediately contacted Miguel, knowing that his emergency coordination role gave him access to broader communication networks. "Miguel, I need you to look at something," Sarah said, her voice tight with excitement and concern. "I've been tracking unusual electromagnetic activity, and I think we might be dealing with something extraordinary." When Miguel arrived at Sarah's workshop an hour later, she showed him the detector readings and explained her analysis. The energy signatures were too large and too precisely controlled to be natural phenomena. They moved in patterns that suggested intelligence and purpose. "What are you thinking?" Miguel asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "I think we're being watched," Sarah replied. "And whoever's doing the watching has technology that makes our best equipment look like stone tools." As if responding to their conversation, Sarah's detector suddenly registered a massive energy spike directly overhead. Both humans looked up at the clear afternoon sky, seeing nothing unusual with their naked eyes. But somewhere high above them, invisible alien observers were making their final preparations for what they believed would be a routine colonial operation. Dr. Cathera completed her preliminary report that evening, unaware that her subjects had begun to detect her surveillance methods. Her analysis concluded that while humans showed interesting social behaviors, they lacked the technological sophistication to pose any meaningful resistance to Zephyrian colonization efforts. She could not have been more wrong. The awakening storm. The first sign of open alien activity came at dawn on a Tuesday morning when massive mining platforms descended from the sky like metallic mountains. They settled in remote areas across 6 continents, their crystalline structures rising hundreds of meters into the air, while their roots burrowed deep into the Earth's crust. Commander Vextar observed the deployment from the bridge of his ship, satisfaction evident in his posture. The mining platforms would extract the rare minerals essential for Zephyrian technology, while causing minimal disruption to human populations. His engineers had selected sites far from major population centers, anticipating that the primitive humans would simply adapt to the presence of the extraction facilities. Within hours, however, the Zephyrian communication networks were buzzing with unexpected reports. Instead of fleeing or hiding, humans were converging on the mining sites from all directions. They came in vehicles, on foot, and by aircraft, carrying strange devices and working together with a coordination that surprised the alien observers. Sarah Chen had been among the first to reach the mining platform that had landed 30 miles from Cedar Falls. Her electromagnetic detector was registering energy levels that should have been lethal to human electronics, yet somehow her equipment continued to function. More importantly, she had brought with her a hastily assembled communication relay that allowed her to maintain contact with Miguel and other community leaders. "The structure appears to be some kind of automated facility," Sarah reported through her radio headset while crouched behind a ridge overlooking the alien installation. "I'm detecting multiple energy sources and what looks like drilling equipment extending into the ground. The electromagnetic field is incredibly strong, but it seems to be contained within a specific radius." Miguel coordinated responses from the emergency center he had established in Cedar Falls. Within 6 hours of the platform's arrival, he had established communication links with similar groups at 5 other sites around the globe. The internet had become humanity's nervous system, allowing scattered communities to share information and coordinate strategies with unprecedented speed. "Pattern recognition indicates these installations are unmanned," reported a voice from Australia through the global communication network Miguel had helped establish. "We're seeing similar structures on every continent. Someone is strip mining our planet, and they're using technology we can't begin to understand." Dr. Cathera watched these developments with growing alarm. Her behavioral models had predicted that humans would respond to overwhelming technological superiority with submission or panic. Instead, they were demonstrating organized resistance and adaptive problem-solving abilities that rivaled those of much more advanced species. "Commander," she reported during an emergency briefing, "the humans are not responding according to our projections. They have established global communication networks within hours of our arrival and are sharing information about our installations with remarkable efficiency." Vextar studied the real-time surveillance feeds showing human activity around each mining platform. Groups of humans were approaching the sites with what appeared to be primitive scientific equipment, taking measurements and conducting analyses. What possible threat could their crude instruments pose to our technology? The answer came sooner than expected. Sarah Chen had been working for 18 hours straight, using her engineering background to analyze the alien technology. She had discovered that while the mining platforms were incredibly advanced, they relied on energy frequencies that human electronics could detect and potentially disrupt. "I think I've found a weakness," she announced during a global conference call that included technical experts from around the world. The platforms use a quantum resonance field to power their operations. If we can generate interference at the right frequency, we might be able to disrupt their mining operations. A physicist from CERN in Switzerland immediately understood the implications. "We have the technology to generate those frequencies, but we would need to coordinate precisely. The timing has to be perfect across all 6 sites simultaneously." Miguel took charge of the operational planning, drawing on his military experience to coordinate what would effectively be a global military operation using civilian resources. "We have 12 hours to build the necessary equipment and position teams at each site. Every university, every research facility, every amateur radio operator on the planet needs to be part of this effort." What followed was perhaps the most remarkable example of human cooperation in recorded history. Universities shared research data freely, corporations donated equipment and resources, and governments provided logistical support without regard for national boundaries. Amateur engineers worked alongside Nobel Prize winners, farmers provided transportation and local knowledge, and communication networks carried technical specifications and coordination data around the globe at light speed. Dr. Cathera watched in fascination as human society transformed itself in real time. "Commander, they are exhibiting behavioral patterns consistent with a hive mind, but maintaining individual creativity and initiative. It should be impossible according to our understanding of social evolution." The operation began at exactly midnight Greenwich Mean Time, with teams at all 6 mining sites activating their improvised frequency generators simultaneously. Sarah Chen crouched behind her equipment in the Montana wilderness, watching as her hastily constructed device began broadcasting quantum interference patterns toward the alien installation. For several seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then the crystalline structures began to vibrate, their harmonic frequencies shifting as the human-generated interference disrupted their quantum resonance fields. The mining platforms, designed to operate in perfect isolation, were experiencing something their creators had never anticipated: coordinated technological resistance from a supposedly primitive species. Commander Vextar watched in disbelief as his mining platforms began shutting down one by one. Emergency alarms filled the bridge of his ship as systems that had operated flawlessly for centuries began experiencing cascading failures. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Their technology is primitive. They should not be capable of generating quantum interference patterns." Dr. Cathera had spent her career studying alien species, and she understood what Vextar could not accept. "Commander, their technology may be primitive, but their minds are not. They have demonstrated the ability to reverse engineer our quantum resonance patterns and develop countermeasures in less than 24 hours. This level of adaptive intelligence is unprecedented in our galactic surveys." As the mining platforms went offline, something unexpected happened on Earth's surface. Instead of celebrating their victory, human groups at each site began approaching the disabled alien installations with what appeared to be scientific curiosity rather than hostility. Sarah Chen was among the first to enter the Montana mining platform after its systems shut down. She carried her electromagnetic detector and a digital camera, documenting everything she observed. The interior of the alien facility was unlike anything she had ever imagined, with flowing organic curves that seemed to merge technology with art. "This is incredible," she whispered into her radio headset. "The level of engineering sophistication is beyond anything we've achieved, but the basic principles are recognizable. It's like seeing what our technology might become in 1,000 years." Similar reports came from the other sites as human teams began studying the alien technology. Instead of trying to destroy or loot the installations, they were treating them as opportunities for learning and understanding. This response baffled the Zephyrian observers more than anything else. In their experience, primitive species either cowered in fear before advanced technology or tried to destroy what they could not understand. The humans were doing neither. They were learning. Miguel Santos coordinated the global information sharing as human scientists began to understand the principles behind Zephyrian technology. "We're seeing the same basic physics at all 6 sites," he reported during a worldwide conference call. "The quantum resonance principles could revolutionize our energy production and material science. But more importantly, this technology represents a peaceful approach to resource extraction that we could adapt for our own use." It was this observation that changed everything. Commander Vextar had been preparing to retreat and classify Earth as a hostile world unsuitable for colonization. But Dr. Kethera's final report contained a recommendation that surprised even her. "Commander, I believe we should initiate contact protocols rather than withdrawal procedures. These humans have demonstrated intelligence, adaptability, and most remarkably, curiosity rather than aggression when confronted with superior technology. They may be primitive by our standards, but they show the potential for rapid advancement. More importantly, they appear to value learning over conquest." Vextar considered this recommendation carefully. The Zephyrian Empire was dying, and traditional approaches to resource acquisition were no longer sustainable. Perhaps it was time to consider a different approach. The first official contact between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire took place on a hilltop overlooking the Montana mining platform. Sarah Chen and Miguel Santos represented Earth, while Dr. Kethera and Commander Vextar represented their civilization. Neither side knew exactly what to expect, but both had learned enough about the other to approach the meeting with cautious optimism rather than fear or aggression. "Your species has surprised us," Dr. Kethera admitted as the 4 beings stood together under an alien sky. "We came expecting to find a primitive world suitable for resource extraction. Instead, we found intelligence, creativity, and wisdom that rivals our own ancient civilization." Sarah looked at the disabled mining platform, and then back at the alien representatives. "We surprised ourselves too. 48 hours ago, most humans had never imagined that intelligent life existed beyond Earth. Now we're standing here discussing quantum physics with beings from another star system." Miguel, ever practical, focused on the future rather than the past. "The question is, what happens now? Our species have very different capabilities, but perhaps that's exactly why we should work together rather than against each other." Commander Vextar, who had spent his entire career conquering worlds, found himself considering possibilities he had never imagined. The humans had demonstrated that primitive technology combined with advanced thinking could achieve remarkable results. Perhaps the Zephyrian Empire's salvation lay not in conquest, but in cooperation. As the sun set over the Montana landscape, 2 species that had expected to be enemies began discussing the possibilities of partnership. The humans offered their adaptability, creativity, and fresh perspectives. The Zephyrians offered their advanced technology, accumulated knowledge, and desperate need for new approaches to old problems. Neither species knew exactly what the future would hold, but both had learned something valuable about the power of looking beyond surface appearances to recognize intelligence and potential. The galaxy, it turned out, was full of surprises for those wise enough to look for them. In the end, humanity's greatest strength had not been their technology or their weapons, but their ability to see opportunity where others saw only obstacles, and to choose cooperation over conflict when faced with the unknown. The war that never was had become the partnership that would reshape 2 civilizations and open new possibilities among the stars.